here for Bearco Redwood. For 20 plus years, we have built a partnership with Trex. Over that span of time, we've brought in more styles, colors, and accessories to create the perfect deck. We've found the best builders in the business to install the product with skill and precision. And now we've made it easier than ever to work with a Trex expert. Request a quote online, chat with someone on BearcoRedwood.com, or visit us in Sacramento, Roseville, El Dorado Hills, or South Sacramento.
This won't happen to you. Think again. There's a new victim every 3 seconds in the U.S., over 15 million this year alone, and many don't even know they're victims. LifeLock alerts you to identity threats you could miss even when you monitor your credit. If your identity is stolen, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft, but everyone can save up to 25% their first year with my name, Clay, as the promo code at LifeLock.com.
This Mother's Day, send your love across town or the nation with a Relish Florist and Gifts Mother's Day floral bouquet. Relish in Midtown at 24th and J.
Count on Relish Florist to show how much you care.
You gotta get this. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see. Okay. You gotta get this. You gotta get this.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at EquityZoneMortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 018148668.
Grando Deportes, Bonjour, Vidi Vidi Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to all the mothers out there in the universe. Happy Mother's Day to everybody, the good mamas in the universe. Happy Mother's Day weekend from Big C Sports Podcast. I want to say today is a beautiful May the 10th, 2024. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers. Home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard in the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sent you where the good Lord split you. Even if it's a happy Mother's Day when he split you. It's always Mother's Day. When a child is born, isn't it Mother's Day? Not only is it Mother's Day for the mother, isn't it Mother's Day for the child that was born? Because you came out of your mama's womb, and then when it's cold outside, you try to get back into your mother's arms, and when your stomach's grumbling, you ask mama, can she cook get some good collard greens? Collard greens when you're born? Yeah, collard greens when you're born. And then when you get sick, you ask mama if she could get you some collard green soup. Collard green soup? Yeah. You know, if you got a headache and you're just not feeling good, you can always call your mama. And they say, Mama, can I get some collard green soup, please? And then mama gives you that collard green soup. If your body has some aches and pains and you need a Calgon woman, Calgon, take me away. You get your mama give you a collard green bath. Collard green bath? Yeah, a collard green bath. When your mama takes the collard greens, put them in the bathtub, and next thing you know, you can eat them too when you're done. You can't eat regular bathtub water when you finish. But collard green water, I know you can eat it. I've tried it many times, but maybe that's TMI. But I do want to wish all the wonderful mothers all over the universe a very happy Mother's Day weekend. May you get your feet rubbed. May you get somebody telling you how beautiful you are. And may everything your heart desires come to you. May lightning strike, but don't let the lightning strike you. That's my third. I'm taking with it. I want to say with Big C Sports Podcast, I always I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter and collard greens in our lives, if that makes sense to you. I love collard greens. I mean, I thought my middle name should have been collard greens. Collard greens. And then the commercials are done. The stats are provided. The storyteller. I even do the play-by-play. Mama, can I have some more collard greens, please? That's not play-by-play. Oh, that's right. Jason Tatum for 3. Yes, here you let's get the hole. I'm telling you, the Celtics got knocked out last night, and it was Cleveland. This is for you. Those good boys from Cleveland, they know it's Mother's Day weekend coming up, and they didn't want to go back to their mothers and say we down 0 games to 2. So they decided to up their game, and they got a win at TD Gardens. Boston, I said Boston would win in 5, but I'm not so sure. I think they have a little hitch and they giddy up. And Cleveland's come to town. They go back to Cleveland now, and the series is tied at 1 apiece. So it's fair game. If Cleveland can just get 1 at home, and then they know they can win at Boston, if they get 2 at home, they're gonna knock out Boston. And I never thought I would have said that, but that all's fair and level war. And then in Minnesota, they have the Big Cat, who got the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Award for social justice. I hope they start championing reparations too, because without no reparations, there is no social justice. You know, ironically, I heard today that Marvell Wilson, who has a blog talk program, called into Al Sharpton podcast show, and they said, why don't you guys talk more about reparations? Big C Sports talk about reparations. And I obviously, hopefully, Al Sharpton will get the message that Dr. Martin Luther King, too, he was talking about reparations, and with people like Al Sharpton, and he was actually introduced by Kathy Hochul, who's the governor of New York City, at an event just last December where they were talking about studying a task force for reparations in the state of New York. And she actually introduced Al Sharpton, Reverend Al Sharpton. So maybe Al Sharpton will start doing what Kathy Hochul is doing and start talking about reparations. Because if you want to do the right thing, how do you not talk about reparations on Mother's Day? You want to do the right thing, because the right thing is always time to do the right thing. That's why I do it in Big C Sports. So I do think the shout out by Marvell Wilson on Al Sharpton's podcast today, and I don't know what happened after that, but I'm hoping that more people can be a part of the right side of history, the same way President Abraham Lincoln tried to. I got some things we're going to talk about also, but I want to go back to the NBA basketball. The Nikola Jokic, the defending NBA champion, Denver Nuggets, Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, Gordon, those good boys, they're in some deep waters. You know, Minnesota's called the land of lakes, and the Timberwolves with the Big Cat, Karl Anthony Towns, they have some good old boys that are going home in front of that crazy crowd in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Denver has to get a win tonight. They can't wait to win game number 4. They got to win game number 3. If not, there'll be too much momentum, and I think they'll get knocked out by those younger legs. But I said Denver's going to at least get back to the Western Conference Finals, and in order to do that, they got to, in my best English, they got to eat more collard greens. I mean, they got to be able to get down inside the paint of the Big Cat. I heard somebody tell me, how do you take your hand out of a lion's mouth? And he said you do it slowly. I said, slow? If your hand's in a lion's mouth, you don't take it out slow, you do it fast. Because if you do it too slow, you may have an arm that feels like lightning hit it. Lions, oh man, I don't even want to think about having my arm in a lion's mouth. But that's what it might feel like for the Denver Nuggets. If those nuggets, what part of the chicken does the nugget come from? I mean, I've eaten many chickens all my life, as stereotypical as it may seem. I've eaten the backside of a chicken. I've eaten the bottom side of a chicken. I've eaten the wing of a chicken. But I don't eat the chicken head. I have eaten chicken neck. I can't lie. I've eaten some chicken wings. My great granddaddy, he loved the backside of the chicken. He liked the last part that flew over the fence. He always ate the chicken butt. But I don't think he ever found any nuggets in the chicken butt. There's some stuff that come out the chicken butt, but it's not something you want to eat. It's not a chicken nugget. So for those good boys that love chicken nuggets, the chicken nuggets better come out prepared tonight to play the Denver Nuggets playing these Minnesota Timberwolves, because if not, I have a feeling, not that they'll get swept. I think they got at least one game in them in Minnesota, but it has to be tonight. what did Two Live Crew sing? He said, tonight's the night. It's gonna be all right. That wasn't Two Live Crew. That was Rod Stewart, Big C. Okay, but they still sing the same song. If Denver's gonna get back in this series, they have to win tonight. The same way Cleveland went into Boston, and they got a game they had to win. As far as the New York Knickerbockers, those good boys in Indiana playing over this weekend. Indiana's probably going to get one of those games. I think Brunson's been finding his groove. Minnesota's found their groove. The Big Cat. Denver's found their groove with Murray. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander found his groove with OKC. But the Dallas Mavericks, they found the groove with Luka Doncic and the great Kyrie Irving. There's some Jedi Knights trained long ago in a galaxy far, far away by the great Obi-Wan Kenobi. And they found a way to even that series against OKC. And now you got to find a way to get a win if you're Denver. Because if not, then you will have no repeat. You have no repeat if they don't win tonight. That's my story. I'm taking it. And then the show's uploaded to 29 podcast applications all over the universe. And then streaming on 4 TV platforms: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon and Fire TV. I love saying that with Big C Sports Podcast because I know people say a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And I do want to clear up something I've been told by some people. They say, Big C, I love your show, but are you open to some constructive criticism? I said, I'm open to some constructive criticism. They say, Big C, you talk too slow. I said, too slow? They said, yeah, too slow. I said, I'm trying to talk faster, and some people say, Big C, you talk too fast. So I've learned to talk the best way I can. You can't please everybody, but you can ask everybody to please bear with you. So if I talk too fast, please bear with me. If I talk too slow, please bear with me. But if you got an extra plate of collard greens, please let me have a bowl. If that makes sense to you, give that some praise. I say give it praise, praise, praise. And I never miss a show since starting Big C Sports with the crew back in the day at Salem Media. I really do appreciate that. I also want to say, on a happy Mother's Day weekend, I love paying homage to the Veterans Crisis Hotline because they really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. As we all know, a mind is a terrible thing to waste, and so is a bowl of collard greens. Popeye the Sailor Man. People, they thought he ate spinach. He ate spinach too, but he only ate spinach when he ran out of collard greens. If that makes sense to you, give that some praise. Collard greens and spinach go together like peanut butter and jelly. Now, collard greens and spinach is better than peanut butter and jelly. But it's all friend level work. I want to say my show a little bit different and being somewhat silly today. I want to just wish all the great mothers in the world a happy Mother's Day. Not all mothers are great, and you guys know who you are. But there's a lot of mothers who are great, and you know who you are. But I want to say the Veterans Crisis Hotline, they're all great. And they really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know anybody going through issues, pick up the phone, call 800-273-8255. 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise because we all need somebody to lean on. Especially when you say, Mama, I'm hungry. Can you cook me something to eat? And she said, yeah, son, go to the kitchen and get the refrigerator and get some of those collard greens. But collard greens is good for you. They call it a super food. It must be super because everybody loves it. Even Popeye the Sailor Man loved collard greens, and he only ate spinach when he ran out of collard greens. Don't think I'm joking. I know a guy I grew up with, they called him Popeye, and he always had collard greens. He raised them. I mean, he talked to them, he gave them fertilizer, he gave them water and sunshine, and I know he did because he was my great-granddaddy. He had collard greens for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, he ate collard greens for everything. Sometimes he even ate collard greens for dessert. A simple man, but he was very smart. Oh, friend, level work. I want to say, as I do my show, I want to make sure that I do things the right way. Oh, I just had an epiphany. I'm going to tell you, I got a commercial that I'm doing. And today, I went by a business, and I gave them my flyer, and I told them we do asset protection. I said, business owners, attention, find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. And he said, well, I got a policy I got to replace by the month of June. I said, that's right around the corner, about 20 days away. And I said, well, let me give you a quote. All I need is a copy of your declaration page. He said, I'm going to have my son send it to you. And, he sent it to me he called me within an hour. His son called me within the hour. And after that, he sent me the declaration pages after we talked. And I sent it up to the company for a quote. I told him we'll get back to him next week. And he said, very happy. So he has several businesses. He has several homes. And he also has several cars. He wants to get a quote. I said, we can do it all. All I need is a copy of your declaration page. And he said, do you do commercial insurance for commercial insurance? I said, yeah, we do it all. I said, all I need is the address of the commercial building you want to insure. He said, okay, I'll send that to you. Within the hour of giving him the flyer, I had it. This stuff works! But the only way it works is if you tell people. So, as I say, for people who say I talk too fast, I'm going to try to talk slower. For people who say I talk too slow, I'm going to try to talk faster or slower. Either way, sometimes I get confused. But I'm going to try this commercial. Most people, when they do a commercial, they take 29 takes. For me, I only take one take. You only get one shot. Isn't that what Ice Cube sang in a song? That wasn't Ice Cube, Big C. That was Eminem. Well, they said the same thing. Man, you're so hard on me. I'm doing the best I can. So, ready? This is what got me 2 calls today to my 800 number from business owners because they saw the flyer, and documentation beats conversation. So I'm going to do the best I can to do my commercial. Ready, set, go. A guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth. RDC Consulting Inc. in conjunction with the law office of Scott Thibodeau and the law offices of George Jones, The Missing Link, Long-Term Care Solutions by the book. Over 3 decades of experience helping seniors get their benefits. Medicare and You, Taking Care of Tomorrow, Medi-Cal in California. Other places it's called Medicare. Your family and spouse can avoid the spend down for nursing home costs. Find out your options. I promise to you. Oh, you talking about Aflac? No, Aflac is gap insurance. Gap insurance doesn't do what we do. They don't protect your assets. I promise to you is to specialize to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets without a spend down. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by our staff of entitlement specialists. Ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary. That's important. Benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescriptions, medical equipment costs, and more. Do you know anybody that's ever dealt with a skilled nursing facility? Do you know anyone who's ever dealt with medical prescriptions? You know anyone who's ever dealt with medical equipment costs and more? Not only that, protection of your assets, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family. Avoiding the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program called probate. And you better believe when you walk your assets up into the courthouse, they love you when you don't have a will and a trust. Because they know that you're too foolish to protect your assets. If you, maybe I'll say it faster for people who say I talk too slow. The probate court, they love you when you walk into the courthouse and you don't have a will and a trust because they love when you don't protect your assets. Is that Affleck? No, Affleck's the duck. The judge likes to eat duck for lunch. But he like when you don't have your assets protected. Because probate can take from 10 to 40% of your estate. You avoid that when you have a trust. A one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance for the rest of your life. Not only that, but you can give that some praise on Mother's Day weekend. You can give that some praise. Asset protection, as I mentioned before. Resource Development Consultant in conjunction with the law office of Scott Thibodeau and the law office attorney George Jones. Protection insurance coverage required by law, general liability, workers' compensation, lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal planning for long-term care. Avoid probate. What kind of bait, Big C? Probate. Life insurance, veterans benefits, aid and attendance, pre-planning and avoid the look-back period. What about fixed assets, Big C? I'm glad you asked. Your bank, checking account, savings account, money market account, certificates of deposit, life insurance with cash values, fixed index annuities. What about variable assets? I'm glad you asked. Real estate, qualified money, IRA, 401k, other investments. Avoid capital gains on the step-up basis with the RDC team. As I said today, attention business owners. Find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. And tell them Big C sent you. Happy Mother's Day. Man, I need some collard greens. I think I need some collard greens right now. If I didn't have to do the show, I would eat me some more collard greens right now. Welcome to the show, the Big C Sports Collard Green Eating Cook-Off in your life. Have you ever seen somebody eat so many collard greens? Those 4 king collard greens are good. They are great. What was that guy? It was a lion on TV. His name was Tony Tiger, and he had a commercial that said, "They're great." Well, when my mama cooked collard greens for the Mother's Day, and people come around the house and eat of course they got the cornbread, sometimes hot water cornbread. You got the lemon meringue pie, the sweet potato pie, the apple pie, the peach cobbler. You got the ribs. You got the lamb. You got the ham. But at the end of the day, you eat those collard greens, and we all say, "Mama, those collard greens, they're great." If your mama knows how to cook collard greens, that's a real mama. It takes a real mama to cook some collard greens. And not everybody can cook collard greens the right way, if that makes sense to you. If you can't cook collard greens, then you probably not a real mama, if that makes sense to you. That's my thread I'm taking with it. Well, now I'll give you my commercial, and I'm telling you that commercial and the flyers that I gave out to business owners. I got 2 people call me to this day, my 800 number, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. All you got to do is take a copy of your insurance declaration page, and you call 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624, and tell them Big C sent you. I'm going to give you an email to send in your declaration page, and in a couple days, the company will get back to you. We use robots. I got to see a copy of your declaration page, because documentation beats conversation. It doesn't matter what you've been through in the past. Documentation beats conversation. 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624, and just tell them Big C sent you. I'll give you an email to email your declaration page. And if you're buying a building, a house or a commercial building, just give me the address and we'll run a quote for you. And we normally beat people by up to 30%, especially when it comes to care facilities. But we can match anybody all over the country from sea to shining sea. 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. And not only that, I want to tell you, with the RDC team, are you still doing the commercial, Big C, or an infomercial? It's an infomercial if you haven't figured it out by now. But I'm telling you, why would someone use the RDC team with the Big C team? Because I'm a business development consultant with RDC, and we're endorsed by the California Department of Aging. I'm going to get into that, but I'm with the National Black Wall Street Project.com, and I'm telling you, there's so much more. Give that some praise in your life. Give that some praise. Co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project.com, and I do everything I can to make sure people have everything they need. And RDC is a great resource. So I'm telling everybody, not only that, if someone asks you to do business with them, these are the endorsements that we have. And ask people, who are their references? Well, I'm glad you asked. Our references are attorney, Mr. George Jones, Esquire, the chairman of the California Black Chamber of Commerce, the California Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation, the Attorney Scott Thibodeau, one of the top lawyers in Northern California, Mr. Leon Woods, resource development consultant, works with many of the top lobbyists in California. We have Miss Cheryl Brown. She's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. We have Mr. Ray De La Cruz, the CEO of Resource Development Consulting. He has the endorsement of the late CalPERS top legal mind, the late Robert Carlson. We also have Mr. Alex De La Cruz. He's the founder of American Veteran Benefits. He endorses the RDC team. We also have Double O. She's part of the PAP committee for the National Black Wall Street Project, also consultant with RDC. And she endorses the RDC team, has her own economics awareness talk show called Let's Eat on Access Sacramento. You can Google it. It's a great show. You got to listen to it. It makes you hungry. It makes you want to go, let's eat. Like, I love eating collard greens. And not only that, we have Big C. So as you know, it's Mother's Day weekend. But I always say, I want to thank Al Sharpton for letting a good friend of Marvell Wilson call in. I just met Marvell by phone, never met him in person. But he gave some shout out to the Big C team. When you get a shout out on the Big C team, to Reverend Al Sharpton, I know that these brothers are smart and they can listen to the things that are happening with reparations in this country. I got something I want to play today for all the great mothers, the good mothers. The good mothers believe in reparations because they believe in repairing things. You don't believe that? Go and mess up the bowl of collard greens before they finish cooking and see if she don't want you to repair them. Go put that finger in the pie to see if it's done before mama take it out the oven, and see if she don't say, take your finger out that pie. Everybody wants things done. So I'm going to let you hear something that's important, because I don't chuck and jive. I really don't chuck and jive. But I want you to hear something about reparations before I get into some basketball too for the holiday weekend. I got some baseball talk. But I want you to listen to this and listen with your own heart, mind, body, and soul about reparations.
Central to the idea of the American dream lies an assumption that we all have an equal opportunity to generate the kind of wealth that brings meaning to the words life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, boldly penned in the Declaration of Independence. The American dream portends that with hard work, a person can own a home, start a business, and grow a nest egg for generations to draw upon. This belief, however, has been defied repeatedly by the United States government's own decrees that denied wealth-building opportunities to black Americans. Today, the average white family has roughly 10 times the amount of wealth as the average black family. White college graduates have over 7 times more wealth than black college graduates. Making the American dream an equitable reality demands the same US government that denied wealth to blacks restore that deferred wealth through reparations to their descendants in the form of individual cash payments in the amount that will close the black-white racial wealth divide. Additionally, reparations should come in the form of wealth-building opportunities that address racial disparities in education, housing, and business ownership. Given the lingering legacy of slavery on the racial wealth gap, the monetary value we know that was placed on enslaved blacks, the fact that other groups have received reparations, and the fact that blacks were originally awarded reparations only to have them rescinded provide overwhelming evidence that it is time to pay reparations to the descendants of enslaved blacks. Welcome to yet another episode on the unpaid invoice of history, reparations for the ravages caused by slavery. Before we continue, don't forget to support our works by hitting that like button in front of you. Share with your families and friends to keep spreading our eye-opening black narrative, and kindly subscribe to help in building the rising membership of this channel. Your support means a lot to us. In 1860, over $3 billion was the value assigned to the physical bodies of enslaved black Americans to be used for free labor and production. This was more money than was invested in factories and railroads combined. In 1861, the value placed on cotton produced by enslaved blacks was $250 million. Slavery enriched white slave owners and their descendants, and it fueled the country's economy while suppressing wealth building for the enslaved. The United States has yet to compensate descendants of enslaved black Americans for their labor. Nor has the federal government atoned for the lost equity from anti-black housing, transportation, and business policy. Slavery, Jim Crow segregation, anti-black practices like redlining and other discriminatory public policies in criminal justice and education have robbed black Americans of the opportunities to build wealth, defined as assets minus debt, afforded to their white peers. Bootstrapping isn't going to erase racial wealth divides. As economists William Sandy Darity and Derek Hamilton point out in their 2018 report, What We Get Wrong About Closing the Wealth Gap, blacks cannot close the racial wealth gap by changing their individual behavior, that is, by assuming more personal responsibility, or acquiring the portfolio management insights associated with financial literacy. In fact, white high school dropouts have more wealth than black college graduates. Moreover, the racial wealth gap did not result from a lack of labor. Rather, it came from a lack of financial capital. Not only do racial wealth disparities reveal fallacies in the American dream, the financial and social consequences are significant and wide-ranging. Wealth is positively correlated with better health, educational, and economic outcomes. Furthermore, assets from homes, stocks, bonds, and retirement savings provide a financial safety net for the inevitable shocks to the economy and personal finances that happen throughout a person's lifespan. Recessions impact everyone, but wealth is distributed quite unevenly in the US. The woeful inadequacy of a government-sponsored safety net was made apparent in the wake of economic disasters, like the 2008 housing crisis and natural ones like Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Those who can draw upon the equity in a home, savings and securities are able to recover faster after economic downturns than those without wealth. Disparities in access to healthcare, along with inequities in economic policies, combine to make black people more vulnerable to negative consequences than white individuals. The United States and governments around the world have paid reparations even when they had no part in inflicting the damage. So why is it that black Americans haven't been compensated for centuries of slavery followed by decades of segregation? This was the question addressed by a panel of experts brought together by the New York State Bar Association's Task Force on Racism, Social Equity, and the Law on Monday night. The discussion took place 2 days after 10 people were gunned down in a supermarket in a black neighborhood in Buffalo by a white supremacist who scrawled, "Here's your reparations," on his assault rifle. Author A. Kirsten Mullen pointed out that the United States government has paid reparations to Japanese families who were interned during World War II, families who lost loved ones during the September 11th attacks, and to Americans held hostage in Iran. The federal government even paid reparations to slave owners for the emancipation of their slaves in the midst of the Civil War. Thomas Kramer, associate professor at the School of Public Policy at the University of Connecticut, detailed how Germany reimbursed victims of the Holocaust and how Haiti was forced to pay reparations to slave owners. Albany Law School professor Anthony Paul Farley, a former federal prosecutor, said that maybe due to the fact that the systems of oppression that shackle and demean black Americans remain in place. Even if checks were cut tomorrow for the highest amount you could imagine, there are procedures in place for white power to recoup it all the day after tomorrow, said Farley. Farley described how black Americans face higher arrest rates, lower wages, and a more fragile economic existence than their white counterparts. He attributed that to systemic defamation by the United States government of black Americans. Our government has a way of teaching everyone black people's place in society, he said. We as lawyers are all familiar with reputational harm. We know what defamation is, we know what it costs if you have a bad name. But we don't think of the ways our government has, for all these years, been busy producing a bad name for black people. Black people have such a bad name that before a black person even gets to a job interview, or walks into a dealership to buy a car, or walks down the street, way before they have ever arrived, there are myths and stories that have formed around them, and people have natural reactions to that.
Hi, my name is Ronald, and I'm in
Farley said that defamation comes in the form of how the government sanctions slavery and then segregation, and how the legal, education, financial and medical systems in the country treat blacks. William A. Darity Jr., a professor of public policy at Duke University, said that many Americans have come to see black suffering as morally correct. If we introduce a wealth program, we have to prepare for a violent response, said Darity. 30% of the population will resist any positive social change on behalf of black people. Darity and Mullen are both pro bono counsel to efforts in California to study reparations. Their conclusion from their involvement is that reparations must be made on a national level. They say the scope of payments needed to address the wealth gap between white and black Americans eclipses even the largest state budgets. Darity said that using the formula of 4 acres and a mule, which was promised to freed slaves by General William T. Sherman during the Civil War, but later reversed by President Andrew Johnson, would necessitate a reparations fund of between $1 to $3 trillion. However, Darity noted that 4 acres and a mule was only one way to measure reparations, and it fails to take into account centuries of negative actions taken by the US government against blacks. This is only one component shaping the wealth gap. There are still the consequences of discriminatory home ownership programs, the destructive effect on black businesses of the federal highway program, and much more. Aside from the sheer size of payments, Darity and Mullen say that tracing the descendants of slaves and singling out those responsible in one state is difficult. California, for example, only has a short history of slavery due to its being founded later in the life of the nation. And as Farley posits, black Americans as a whole, regardless of whether they are descended from slaves, have borne the brunt of racist policies and the government's defamation. Asked where he would begin to implement reparations, Farley noted his credentials as a former federal prosecutor before advocating for the abolition of prison and the police. We know prison doesn't make people better. We've essentially abolished prison for white people, and yet we incarcerate a higher portion pro capita than the Soviet Union, than apartheid South Africa. We incarcerate more per capita than the People's Republic of China. Chains look good on black people to most Americans, he said. For the descendants of the 12.5 million blacks who were shipped in chains from Western Africa, America has come to a genetic birth defect when it comes to the question of race, as stated recently by the US Representative Hakeem Jeffries. If America is to atone for this defect, reparations for black Americans is definitely part of the healing and reconciliation process. Black Americans are the only group that has not received reparations for state-sanctioned racial discrimination, while slavery afforded some white families the ability to accrue tremendous wealth. It is important to note, nonetheless, that American slavery was particularly brutal. About 15% of the enslaved shipped from Western Africa died during transport. The enslaved were regularly beaten and lynched for frivolous infractions. Slavery also disrupted families, as 1 in 3 marriages were split up, and 1 in 5 children were separated from their parents. The case for reparations can be made on economic, social, and moral grounds. The United States had multiple opportunities to atone for slavery, each a missed chance to make the American dream a reality, but has yet to undertake significant action. A major instance was right after the Civil War, when Union leaders concluded that each black family was to receive 40 acres and mules left over from the war. General William Sherman had signed Field Order 15 to this effect and allocated 400,000 acres of confiscated Confederate land to black families. Yet, after President Abraham Lincoln's assassination, President Andrew Johnson reversed Field Order 15 and returned land back to former slave owners. Instead of giving blacks the means to support themselves, the federal government empowered former enslavers. For example, in Washington, D.C., slave owners were actually paid reparations for lost property, that is, the formerly enslaved. This practice was also common in nearby states. Many black Americans with limited work options returned as sharecroppers to till the same land for the very slave owners to whom they were once enslaved. Slave owners not only made money off the chattel enslavement of black Americans, but they then made money multiple times over off the land that the formerly enslaved had no choice but to work. There's never a bad time to do what's morally right, but the United States has had prime opportunities to atone for slavery. In the 1930s, the United States was reeling from the 1929 stock market crash and was firmly engulfed in the Great Depression. The Franklin Roosevelt administration implemented a series of policies as part of his New Deal legislation, estimated to cost roughly $50 billion then, to catapult the country out of depression. Current estimates price the New Deal at about $50 trillion. 2 particular policies of the New Deal fell short in redressing America's racial wrongs: the GI Bill and Social Security. Though white and black Americans fought in World War II, black veterans could not redeem their post-war benefits like their white peers. While the GI Bill was mandated federally, it was implemented locally. The presence of racial housing covenants and redlining among local municipalities prohibited blacks from utilizing federal benefits. White soldiers were afforded the opportunity to build wealth by sending themselves and their children to college, and by obtaining housing and small business grants. Regarding Social Security, 2 key professions that would have improved equity in America were excluded from the legislation: domestic and farm workers. These omissions effectively excluded 60% of blacks across the US and 75% in southern states who worked in these occupations. Roosevelt bargained these exclusionary provisions in the legislation on the backs of black veterans and workers in order to propel mostly white America out of the Great Depression. There are other policies and practices that contributed to racial wealth gap. Government-sanctioned discrimination related to the 1862 Homestead Act, redlining, restrictive covenants, and convict leasing blocked blacks from the ability to gain wealth at similar rates as whites. Separate from slavery, damages should be awarded to black people who were harmed by these policies and practices. The US government owes lost wages as well as damages to the people it helped enslave. In addition to the lost wages, the cumulative amount of restitution for individuals should eliminate the racial wealth gap that currently exists. According to the Federal Reserve's most recent numbers in 2016, based on the Survey of Consumer Finances, white families had the highest median family wealth at $171,000, compared to black and Hispanic families, which had $17,600 and $20,700 respectively. Taking a look at some good objectives which promise to make a great impact in implementing reparations is the aspect of 1. College tuition. College tuition to 4-year or 2-year colleges and universities for descendants of enslaved black Americans is a great step. People should be able to use the tuition remission to obtain a bachelor's degree or an associate's vocational or technical degree. Tuition should be available for public or private universities. Considering the racial gap in the ability to obtain degrees at private schools, this part of the package will further help to reduce racial disparities by affording more social network access and opportunity structures. 2. Student loan debt. This is another great step in the right direction of reparations, as student loan debt continues to be a significant barrier to wealth creation for black college graduates. Among 25 to 55-year-olds, that is about 40% of blacks compared to 30% of whites have student loan debt. Blacks also have nearly $45,000 of student loan debt compared to about $30,000 for whites. Recent research finds that blacks are more likely to be allocated unsubsidized loans. Furthermore, graduates of historically black colleges and universities, compared to predominantly white institutions, are more likely to receive subprime loans with higher interest rates. Universities including and Princeton Theological Seminary, which is the second oldest seminary in the country, are aiming to atone for the fact that the sale of slaves helped to fortify their university endowments and establish them as elite institutions of higher education on a global scale. Descendants of the slaves sold by Georgetown and Princeton Theological Seminary are now entitled to full rights and benefits bestowed by those universities to obtain degrees across the higher education pipeline. The Virginia state legislature voted for some of its state universities to atone for slavery with reparations. Other universities, along with state legislatures and the federal government, should follow suit. 3. Down payment and housing revitalization grants. Down payment grants will provide black Americans with some initial equity in their homes relative to mortgage insurance loans. Housing revitalization grants will help black Americans to refurbish existing homes in neighborhoods that have been neglected due to a lack of government and corporate investments in predominantly black communities. Given recent settlements for predatory lending, low and fixed interest rates as well as property tax caps in areas in which housing prices are significantly devalued should be part of the package. After accounting for factors such as housing quality, neighborhood quality, education and crime, owner-occupied homes in black neighborhoods are undervalued by $48,000 per home on average, amounting to a whopping $156 billion that homeowners would have received if their homes were priced at market rates. As gentrification occurs, blacks are typically priced out of neighborhoods they help to maintain, while the historical and current remnants of redlining and restrictive covenants inhibited investments. Some black Americans are being forced from their family home of decades because of tax increases as neighborhoods are gentrified. This is an important point because some 2020 Democratic presidential candidates aim to redress the racial wealth gap by focusing on historically redlined districts. Perry's research shows that these policies fall short of capturing a large segment of black Americans. 4. Business grants. Black-owned businesses are more likely to be located in predominantly black neighborhoods that need the infrastructure and businesses. However, black business owners are still less likely to obtain capital from banks to make their businesses successful. This reparations package for black Americans is about restoring the wealth that has been extracted from black people and communities. Still, reparations are all for naught without enforcement of anti-discrimination policies that remove barriers to economic mobility and wealth building. The architecture of the economy must change in order to create an equitable society. The racial wealth gap was created by racist policies. Federal intervention is needed to remove the racism that undergirds those policies. Reparations are payments, monetary and otherwise, given to a group that has suffered harm. For example, Japanese Americans who were interned in the United States during World War II have received reparations. While Americans generally think of reparations as monetary, Michelle Bachelet, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, in the office's June 1, 2021 annual report, states, measures taken to address the past should seek to transform the future. Structures and systems that were designed and shaped by enslavement, colonialism, and successive racially discriminatory policies and systems must be transformed. Reparations should not only be equated with financial compensation. They also comprise measures aimed at restitution, rehabilitation, satisfaction, and guarantees of non-repetition, including, for example, formal acknowledgement and apologies, memorialization, and institutional and educational reforms. Reparations are essential for transforming relationships of discrimination and inequity, and for mutually committing to and investing in a stronger, more resilient future of dignity, equality, and non-discrimination for all. Reparatory justice requires a multi-pronged approach that is grounded in international human rights law. Reparations are one element of accountability and redress. For every violation, there should be repair of the harms caused through adequate, effective, and prompt reparation. Reparations help to promote trust in institutions and the social reintegration of people whose rights may have been discounted, providing recognition to victims and survivors as rights holders. President Obama outlined the political difficulty of reparations on his podcast with Bruce Springsteen, Renegades, Born in the USA. He said, "So, if you ask me theoretically, are reparations justified? The answer is yes. There's not much question that the wealth of this country, the power of this country was built in significant part, not exclusively, maybe not even the majority of it, but a large portion of it was built on the backs of slaves. What I saw during my presidency was the politics of white resistance and resentment, the talk of welfare queens and the talk of the undeserving poor, and the backlash against affirmative action. All that made the prospect of actually proposing any kind of coherent, meaningful reparations program struck me as, politically, not only a non-starter, but potentially counterproductive. We know the monetary value that was placed on enslaved blacks and the productivity of their labor, as well as the amount of the racial wealth gap. We've seen other groups receive restitutions while the federal government pulled back reparations for black Americans. Accordingly, if we want to close the racial wealth gap and live up to our moral creed to protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, a federal reparations package for black Americans is in order. This package should include individual and collective public benefits that simultaneously builds wealth and eliminates debt among black citizens. We assert that it should be similar to the Harriet Tubman Community Investment Act, which was recently heard before the Maryland General Assembly, where Ray testified on its behalf. The Harriet Tubman Community Investment Act aims to atone for slavery and its legacy by addressing education, homeownership, and business ownership barriers. With April 4th marking the 52nd year since Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, we think it is appropriate to end with an oft-forgotten quote from Dr. King's "I Have a Dream" speech that he gave in 1963 in Washington, D.C. This statement is still one of the unfulfilled aspects of this policy-related speech. We have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. This brings us to the end of this video segment. Hope you find it of great interest. Tell us what you think in the comment section below. Your opinion counts a great deal. Don't forget also to support our works by hitting that like button in front of you. Share information with families and friends to keep up the content.
In your life, happy Mother's Day weekend.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
From his speech, The Two Nations of Black America. And it's absolutely brilliant. And the next time some white person talks about, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and my family did too, especially the Bundy boys. I mean, you know, here's Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talking about how basically whites stole the West from the Indians with the complete, and didn't just steal it, I mean murdered them, he murdered the Indians in the process, and did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. You know, it's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. It is a very, very strong case for that.
In your life, reparations now, reparations forever. I love saying reparations. You just heard the great Mother's Day weekend show from Big C Sports on Reparations. Al Sharpton heard of Big C Sports podcast. I'm sure that more of our decent politicians are going to start doing the right thing and not shucking and jiving, because you want to be on the right side of history. And you heard it on Big C Sports podcast. I tell you, for Mother's Day weekend, I hope that the good mothers and the good citizens, not only the United States, but the United Nations, they address the issue of reparations as we get ready to sit around dinner tables or picnics or the beach or wherever you're going to spend the Mother's Day weekend, whether your mother's here or whether your mother's not. I just am so grateful for all the Mother's Days that I've been able to share with my beautiful mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Always saying rise and shine. And there are times when people have so many things that they can be grateful for, and I'm grateful for having a great mother. And for those of you who also can say the same thing, mothers that keep their family together, and even if you're not together, at least you try to encourage the bloodline to stay close. And some people do that, some people don't. But for Mother's Day weekend, I hope that everybody has a great Mother's Day weekend. I really do. Give that some praise. I say give it praise, praise, praise. Big C, I thought you were going to tell me who won the game. I did tell you who won the game. You know, we got Major League Baseball. I told you about NBA basketball. Got some games going tonight. May the best teams win. And oftentimes people feel that they don't get the best calls. It's a miss and make league. The referees don't shoot baskets. They only call the fouls or the good plays or whatever it is. But you can't worry about it. I am going to run down Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. I'm just going to do the way I like doing it, because I want to close out with some thoughts on Mother's Day. But I'm going to go for Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. Whether you agree or not is my opinion, and my opinion is what counts, because I think I do the best. I'm going to say number 10, the Milwaukee Brewers. Runners on first and third. That counts for the pitch. Curveball. Swung on. Hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friends. I love saying the girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep. Number 9, I got the Minnesota Twins. Runners on first and third. That counts for the pitch. Curveball. Swung on. Hit deep. Left field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friends. I love saying the girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep. Now, not everybody loves to hit deep when it comes to baseball. Some people, they like to bunt instead, but we don't like to bunt on our Big C team. We want to make sure we try to hit those home runs as much as possible. So I got, just to make sure, I got number 8 Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. The Chicago Cubs. Runners on first and third. That counts for the pitch. Curveball. Swung on. Hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friends. I love saying the girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep. Number 7 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings, the Texas Rangers. Runners on first and third. That counts for the pitch. Curveball. Swung on. Hit deep. Center field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friends. The girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep. Number 6 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings, Cleveland. This is for you. The Cleveland Guardians. Runners on first and third. That counts for the pitch. Curveball. Swung on. Hit deep. Left field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friends. I love saying the girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep. I got number 5 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. Runners on first and third. That counts for the pitch. Curveball. Swung on. Hit deep. Center field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friends. I love saying the girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep. That's the Atlanta Braves down there in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Number 4 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. Runners on first and third. It counts for the pitch. Curveball. Swung on. Hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friends. That's the New York Yankees. The Yankees win. The Yankees win. I got number 3 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. Runners on first and third. That counts for the pitch. Curveball. Swung on. Hit deep. Center field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friends. I love saying the girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep. And that's the Baltimore Orioles, number 2 in Big C's Major League Baseball rankings. The power rankings is my story, and I'll stick with it. Runners on first and third. That counts for the pitch. Curveball. Swung on. Hit deep. Center field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friends. I say the girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep. The Philadelphia Phillies. are number 2 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. Number 1 in Big C's Major League Baseball power rankings. Runners on first and third. The counts for the pitch. Curveball, swung on, hit deep. Right field, back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friends. I love saying the girls love the long ball and men love to hit deep. That's the LA Dodgers, number 1 in Big C's Major League power rankings for Mother's Day weekend. I hope that everybody can really enjoy Mother's Day weekend and what it means to you, whether your mother's here or not. They're always someplace all over the universe. His heart, mind, body, and soul goes out to prayers for all the good mothers on Mother's Day weekend, and may they all have a lot of collard greens to eat. That's my thread. I'm sticking with it. I love paying homage to my beautiful family legacy, my great-grandparents, Mama and Pop. On my mother's side, my grandparents, Madia and Hezekiah, and then I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Always saying rise and shine, the best person I ever met in my life. Started a Hairspray program, a food program, and also coached an all-boys Little League baseball team to the championship of the universe. The best person I ever met in my life. Love my mama with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Happy Mother's Day, Mama. On my father's side, my grandparents, Albert Curry and Alberta Curry, they had 3 churches. They owned 2 gas stations in Oakland. They also owned 40 acres of land. I was 8 years old walking through a hallway in Oakland about 10 o'clock at night. I felt somebody touch my forehead. She said, "What are you doing, young man? Going to get some cookies?" I said, "What are you doing, Grandma? It's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, "What are you doing, young man? Going to get some more cookies?" I said, "Cookies are baby crap to what I'm doing, Grandma. I'm going to get my reparations." And some cookies wouldn't hurt. She said, "There's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak, and now I'm on 29 podcast platforms and streaming on 4 TV platforms. I love my grandma with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure planes can fly high so we could all stay safe at night. Always saying develop your mind to a size extent. Love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful brother, Todd, with that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning when top of speak. Always saying go forward. A voracious reader. Love Todd with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Then my beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years from a major university. She helped me set up the very first interview for Big C Sports at Salem Media. It became the first time in the history of the United States that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. She set it up. Daisy, you can be anything you want to be. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Always trust God. Isaiah 54:17. And then my beautiful handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College student, very smart, erudite, a good man. Always pray, always trust God. Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon formed against him prosper. Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get newspapers to look up stats for players and teams for Big C Sports Podcast. One day Malcolm said, "Dad, why don't you just Google it?" And a light bulb went up. Been Googling ever since. Now on 29 podcast platforms, streaming on 4 TV platforms. And then one day Malcolm said, "Dad, do you want to see Big C Sports on TV?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports, you'll see your show come up." That's before it was even on the air. Now streaming on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Malcolm, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You can be anything you want. Always trust God. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then Big C with all that wealth and knowledge over the years. Like my great-granddaddy coming out of that barn with a church buddy saying, you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe. Let's get ready to rumble. I love to say welcome to the show. ESPY nominated Big C Sports Podcast. I have no scripts. I have no 3-way helicopters. I have no producer in my ear. But I do have that gland in the brain called the pineal gland. The ancients call it the third eye. And that's how they say you talk to God. And that's what I do when I do my broadcast at Big C Sports Podcast. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, I wish everyone a happy Mother's Day weekend. My beautiful mother always says, but I'm going to take it now. If you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink, because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber, you can call Lyft, you can walk it off, you can sleep it off. But don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of the car and start drinking and driving. The life you save may be your own, or someone you love, or someone that somebody else loves. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. My beautiful mother always says there's never ever an excuse for racism, like you just heard about reparations on Big C Sports, or domestic violence. You need more LEADER in your life. LEADER is an acronym for love is the answer. Anybody that loves you, they don't smack you. I only hit you because you make me mad. Anyone who loves you, they don't kick you. I only kicked you because you made me mad. Anyone who loves you, they don't choke you out. I only choked you because you made me mad. Don't put up with that crap. No man, woman, or child should ever have to. Call 911. things change when the police show up. Don't put up with that crap, and don't let your children see anyone beating them up. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, back by popular demand. Back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to champion reparations now, reparations forever. And then I float like a butterfly, and I sting like a bee. So there's no fighter greater than Muhammad Ali. As I end today's show on Happy Mother's Day, for all the good mothers, and you know who you are. Not everybody's good. If you're not good, atone for it. But if you're good, you know who you are. Always, always, always do the right thing. And I love saying, let's honor President Abraham Lincoln and the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And the United Nations, as they're talking about reparations on Mother's Day weekend. That's my story, I'm sticking with it. What will they say? He says, sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. Oh, come on, Sam, you cheered louder at the Kentucky Derby over a horse. You cheered louder for a horse than you cheered for reparations. Let's sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. Come on, say it like your heart, mind, body, and soul really believes in doing the right thing. Are you good or bad? Are you good or bad? Sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you all have a super fantastic day. Happy Mother's Day weekend.